Hello and welcome to the Pre-Chiro Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Glass. I'm a chiropractor. And today we're making a connection with the Sherman Chiropractic College president, Dr. Jack Bourla, out in South Carolina. Dr. Jack, can you get us started by just introducing yourself and reflecting on what it was that attracted you to become a chiropractor in a short, nice Cliff Notes version, please?
Sure. Yeah. So my exposure to chiropractic, I had never even heard of chiropractic until many, many years ago, when I experienced one of those quote unquote miracle stories. I'll tell you that I don't believe in miracle stories. I believe in amazing stories. When the body is working properly, we see some great results. Those aren't miracles. Miracles are divinely intervened, and we're not doing with that. But my first wife, my first late wife, experienced an incredible story where she was unable to move her legs. She woke up one morning unable to move her legs. We went the medical route, nothing happened. A friend of mine told me about chiropractic. I knew nothing about chiropractic. I trusted him. I went to a chiropractor. He adjusted her and she walked out of there. And that for me was amazing. Because of her experience, I too became a chiropractic patient. She and I saw that chiropractor every Friday until he passed away. And when he passed away, we sought another chiropractor and saw him every Friday. And you know, life is interesting. The universe is interesting. I was afforded an opportunity to make a decision about what I want to do with the rest of my life. I'd done a bunch of things before chiropractic. I looked into chiropractic. I saw that there was an opportunity for me to attend a chiropractic college. I did that. It was the best decision I ever made. The rest is history. That was almost 30 years ago.
And what were some of the unique experiences that you had as a career transitioner, somebody who went to school a little bit later in life, not right out of high school, or excuse me, not right out of college? What were some of the unique challenges you had, or maybe surprises you encountered, or how did you have to retrain yourself to, or humble yourself to not necessarily be making a paycheck anymore, but be given quizzes and tests and exams now?
Great question, great scenario. So I went back to chiropractic. I went to chiropractic when I was 39. So I was maybe 17 years older than the oldest student in my class. So I was the oldest, and I knew I had time. I had to make up some time, and so I dove deep into what I had to do. I went from so my prior experience was I was a university teacher. I was a family planning counselor. I ran the Stanford University Blood Center. I worked in biotechnology. I owned and operated 3 restaurants. I consulted for the biotechnology company, and none of that was satisfying to me. And so I chose chiropractic because it made sense to me. When I was explained what chiropractic truly was, I said, this makes total sense to me. The challenge I had was that I was older, so I had time. I had to make a lot of time. The advantage I had, Ben, was that as a student, I was recognized as an older human being. And so the professors treated me differently. So I was on their level of speak in terms of life experiences. Because I had a hugely scientific background, I was able to challenge out of a number of classes. And so I did that. And as a result, I got to do research. I got a publication out of the research. But more importantly, is I established relationships with mature chiropractors. So my challenges were time. My non-challenges were experience. I had prior experience. When I graduated from chiropractic college, I was ready to go, and I went. It was a great experience for me.
And yeah, can you just reflect on your career as a chiropractor in practice, delivering a professional adjustment, delivering an amazing experience for the people you cared for, and just the fruits of your labor and also the struggles that you went through?
Sure. So because I had all this prior business experience, I mean, I ran a division of a biotech company, which today the budget I have is about 20 million bucks. That's not a small thing. I had owned and operated 3 restaurants, so I had business experience. I knew about how to market, how to sell, and how to operate. But that didn't prepare me for chiropractic business. It's a totally different business. So I was kind of arrogant. I did really well in school. I graduated top of my class, and by the way, that means nothing. But I did. I graduated top of my class. They gave me a medallion that I used to wear around my neck. I went to Starbucks thinking discount. I didn't got no discounts. Um, but I had this certain preconceived notion that I'm going to go open an office, and because of I did well in school and I had prior business experience, I thought people would flock to me, and they didn't. I would sit in my office and the phone would ring, and I was very excited about the phone ringing, but invariably it was my mother calling me. And so that didn't bring me a lot of patience. And so I thought I've got to do something differently. And so what I did is I actually got a little puppy, a black Labrador puppy, because that's a great conversation starter. And I had a bunch of these door knockers made up. When you get a pizza thing hung on your doorknob and you kind of get ticked off about that. Well, I had those made up. And what I would do is I picked a 5 mile radius from my office, and I visited every single household in that 5 mile radius. And if they were there, I would talk to them. If they weren't there, I would leave this door hanger. And so I had to do something different. So I did that, and that started the conversation about who I was, what chiropractic was. And then I got the courage to start speaking at businesses, and that was good. And then I thought, you know what, the city loves at that time we had newspapers. I don't know if you know what newspapers are, but they're like published papers with ink on them that make your hands dirty. But what I did is I called the newspaper and I said, hey, I'm opening my new office. I'm a new business. Would you come down and do a grand opening with me? So a ribbon cutting. So they came and did that. So I started to infiltrate into my community. And in so doing, I became a human being relating to other human beings. I was not a businessman. I was a human being relating to other human beings. And when I did that, Ben, people started to come. And that for me was eye-opening. So if you're a chiropractor, or if you're a student and you think you're just going to walk out because you're a graduate, that's not how it happens. You've got to relate to other human beings. And so it humbled me a lot that I thought I'm going to open my office and the people are going to come in to. I opened my office and my mom would call me, and nothing wrong with my mom calling me, but I had to do something differently. And so I went out into the community and I began to relate. And I think that's what we chiropractors do differently than any other profession, is we relate to the people that we're blessed to serve. So that was my experience. My experience was that I had to do something differently than what I thought was going to happen. And fortunately for me, it paid off. For 25 years, I was in my practice. So on November 29th, Ben, I closed my practice. I was supposed to retire in June of this year, 2023, June. My wife and I, we bought a house in Idaho, and I had envisioned myself sitting on the dock. We bought a house on the lake. I was going to sit on this dock, watch the fish as they swam by, and maybe write a book. And something else happened. The universe said, no, you're not done yet. You've got another opportunity. So the opportunity for Sherman came around, and I took it, thankfully, because it's one of the greatest decisions I ever made. But I took the opportunity to work within the educational system. But when I left my office on November 29th, what I realized is that I was saying goodbye to people that I had known for 25 years. And it was a really hard, emotional day for me. But fortunately, I planned for this. And I was able to sell my practice and turn it over to someone who I respect very much. And now she has my practice. She has all the people that I had for 25 years. And so now she's taking care of them, because my reluctance in selling my practice and leaving it was that who's going to take care of my people? And so fortunately for me, the universe sent me this lovely woman, Dr. Anya Hook, and she's taken over my practice. She's doing great with them. So I felt good leaving, knowing that now I'm going to come to the next chapter of my life. And boy, is this chapter a great one.
I'm wondering if before we enter into this new chapter and phase of your life, if we could just draw a parallel and center our voice on the prospective student audience, the pre-chiropractic student, because I believe it's a segment of the greater chiropractic profession that hasn't been given as much recognition and as much intentional development of resources and support and guidance. Can you maybe just talk about how you realizing that you had to get out and connect with people and maybe overcome some of those inner struggles, or just voices in your head that said, hey, maybe it's easier for me to just go and sit in a cafe and mind my own business. But you actually, when you got into practice, you had to go out into your community and connect with people. And I'm just wondering if you could draw a parallel to the chiropractic student pre-chiropractic student who's realized that they've been given this gift of understanding chiropractic at a very young stage of the life cycle to becoming a chiropractor, and they've decided they wanted to start their own pre-chiro club, and maybe now they're having to go out and get uncomfortable and connect with their college campus. I'm just wondering if you could give some words of encouragement to that pre-chiro club that's out there that or the student that's out there starting it, or the students that are involved in it, to step outside of their comfort zone, or just whatever words of encouragement you would give to them?
Sure. So here's the thing. If you're thinking about becoming a chiropractor, give it no more thought. Just do it. We will walk into a capability to change people's lives. And that's what we do. People say, oh, we save lives. No, we don't save lives. That's up to the higher powers. What we do is we actually change their lives. We give them a different perspective on what their life could be. One of the things that we have to overcome is this idea that we are doctors of chiropractic. Now, we know, you and I know that doctor means to teach, and that's a lovely thing. But unfortunately, the public thinks of us as doctors. Like, where's our white lab coat? Where's our stethoscope? Are we going to inject this or prescribe this? That's not what we do. We have a philosophy in chiropractic, which is the most brilliant thing that I've ever encountered. And that is, the body has this innate wisdom to regulate, reorganize, and adapt. And we as chiropractors can affect that process because we know that that information that goes from the brain to the body and out to the tissues and organs and systems is the nerve system. And so we actually have a direct impact on the nerve system by the work that we do, which is when we adjust what's called the vertebral subluxation. Now, the first time I heard vertebral subluxation, I walked away with submarine. I don't know why, that's what I heard. But when I was explained to what was going to happen to my wife who was unable to walk, he was looking for vertebral subluxation, which is altering her nerve system's ability to regulate, reorganize, and adapt. We have this ability to touch people and change the course of their lives. And when we change the course of their lives, we change the trajectory of the planet because we all have a role on this planet. So if you're a pre-chiro student, understand that this is way bigger than what you might think it is. Some pre-chiro students are blessed to have been born into a chiropractic family, and that's awesome. But others may not have been in that position. And so they've heard this concept about chiropractic, and most people think about chiropractic as an alleviation of back pain, neck pain, headaches, sciatica, indigestion, which, by the way, chiropractic is very good at, but not because that's our intention. Our intention is to allow the body to behave more normally with respect to its physiology. And when your physiology is working properly, your neck pain, your back pain, your sciatica, your headaches, indigestion, those will go away because the body heals. So first of all, anybody who thinks they're healing, you got to rethink that. What we are is we are people who interrupt the malfunctioning of the body. The body will always do the healing for us. Even when we have surgery, for example, we have surgery and the surgeon does his or her job, and then they set you aside to heal because they know that the body does the healing. They remove the interference, the body will do the healing. So as a pre-chiro student, understand that you may be entering into a profession, which I believe is extremely profound. The effects of what we do can change the trajectory of the planet. And that starts with the individual. What a great responsibility and what a great honor it is to have that potential. So pre-chiro students, find yourself a mentor. Find yourself someone that you really do respect, who understands what chiropractic truly is. It's not an alternative to medicine. Medicine has its purpose. And by the way, thank God they're there, because when I'm in crisis care, I want to go see a medical doctor. We are not a substitute for medicine. We're not a substitute for personal training. We're not a substitute for massage therapy. We are the only doctors who are highly trained to evaluate the spine and nerve system for interference and make the correction when necessary. And when I say we make the correction, we entice the body to make the correction. We don't do that either. So as a pre-chiro student, if you're thinking about it, you're about to enter perhaps one of the greatest professions that's been around since 1895.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for that, Jack.
You're
Can
welcome.
you kind of now bring us to present moment of being now at the helm of Sherman College of Chiropractic, one of the real it's at the cutting edge of chiropractic education since its inception. Maybe just reflect on the history of it, where it's at presently, and then maybe touch on the future, and we can get in deeper to the present and future later, but maybe just talk about the history, the present, and where you see it going.
Sure. So this institution, Sherman College of Chiropractic, was founded in 1973. So we're actually celebrating our 50th year, which is awesome. So doctors Tom and Betty Gilardi had an idea. And the idea they had was that they wanted to open up a college which respected the premise, of philosophy and the principles of chiropractic. And they did so in 1973. And they named after Lyle Sherman, who I hope that people know. Maybe it's a chiro you don't know, but Lyle Sherman was a chiropractor. He was actually the director of research for B.J. Palmer at the Palmer School of Chiropractic. And he had a great outlook on chiropractic. What he wanted was this: Lyle Sherman wanted students of chiropractic to graduate with an ability to know when and when not to adjust. And he used objective measures with which to do that. So Tom and Betty Gilardi in 1973 founded this college in Spartanburg. Well, it's actually in Boiling Springs, but near Spartanburg, South Carolina, with the intention of promulgating the purity of chiropractic, which is what the Palmers asked us to do. B.J. Palmer and D.D. Palmer actually asked us to, through admonishment, to keep chiropractic pure, which means only doing chiropractic. Now, we know chiropractors do a bunch of things. They may do massage therapy, they may do ultrasound, they may do E-stim, they may do all kinds of cold lasers, they may do all those things. And they're entitled to do that, but that's not chiropractic. What Tom and Betty Gilardi want us to do is to honor the purity of chiropractic, to adhere to the admonishment that BJ certainly gave us. And that is, he called chiropractic a sacred trust. And he wanted us to guard the sacred trust. So Sherman has taken upon itself to maintain the purity of chiropractic. So we just teach pure chiropractic. Now, what does that mean? We go through all the sciences, of course. We go through science. We go through all the systems of the body. We go through pathology, because I think one of the best ways to understand normal physiology is to look at pathology. And we prepare them so that when they leave the educational, the didactic side of their education, we want to ease them into now the clinical side, which is where they take all the things they learned on the didactic side and now begin to apply it practically in their clinic. So it's a process. It's about 4,500 hours of classroom hours. It's not easy. Anybody who thinks that they can learn chiropractic over a weekend is mistaken. So it's a grueling class, a grueling program, but you're going to get through that program with enough information so that, one, you can pass your boards, because we have to take boards, but two, you're ready to leave this campus with the confidence and the competence to look for what we call vertebral subluxation, to analyze it, and then to make the necessary correction so that you can restore normal function in the body. So Sherman has dedicated itself to maintaining the purity of chiropractic. We don't do anything more, we don't do anything else, and that's what we do.
Amazing, amazing. And so if somebody wanted to learn more about Sherman, can you maybe just touch on some of the resources, the admissions department, some of the different activities that are available, brought to pre-chiropractic students from the admissions department, and then maybe also just reflect a little bit about the campus, the amenities, the facilities, the amount of chiropractors that are on staff that are supporting students through the program. If you could do your best to give us as much insight and detail as possible, please, Jack.
Sure. So the first thing I would do is I would direct you to our website. So anybody who wants to look at Sherman, www.sherman.edu. You go to our website, and there's a whole section there on people who want to know what the expectations are, what the admissions requirements are. Those are all there. We have an admissions department that is so passionate about what they do. So everything that we do, we always have, on campus, we have two things that we're worried about. Not worried, that we concern ourselves with. One is we're obsessed with student excellence, and we're obsessed with employee excellence and their success. So everything we do, we keep in the back of our mind, how is what we're doing good for our students, and how is what we're doing good for our employees? So we have about 400 students at Sherman, and we expect to grow that now. The previous administration, before I got here, did a great job. I was left in great hands with this campus. So Dr. Edwin Cordero and his staff did a phenomenal job of building Sherman College, and for that I am eternally grateful. Now my job is to take it from where it is now and grow it intelligently, so we make sure that we have the right facilities, we have the right people on staff. So we have about 400 students, a little under 400 students. We have about 100 employees, and the doctors and the staff that we have here are so committed. So here's the mission of Sherman College. It's really quite simple. And anybody who strays from the mission is not congruent with what we're doing. Here's the mission. The mission is that we're going to educate and prepare students to become doctors of chiropractic who are focused on the objective analysis and the specific adjustment of vertebral subluxation. Because we know that vertebral subluxations in and of themselves are a detriment to the human experience. So we all have this capacity to be who we are supposed to be, but things happen to us. We have stressors in our lives, and we have accidents, and we have injuries, and we have diseases. We get that. But we were born with this potential to be really great. And so we believe that this greatness comes when you have the proper functioning nerve system, which allows all the physiology in your body to take place. So we are all committed to the mission. This mission was put down by Tom and Betty Gilardi back in 1973. And so we're committed to that mission. And so when we accept a student, our job is to make sure that student has a superb experience while they're at our Sherman College. So there's lots of things. So there's clubs. I mean, when you come here, there's clubs, there's technique clubs, there's philosophy clubs, there's science clubs. There's all the things that make up the varying components of chiropractic. So chiropractic is based on a philosophy, a science, and an art. So the philosophy is the premise of what we do, the why we're what we do. The art is how we do it. And so we have all of this effort to make sure that we produce a very well-rounded, competent, and confident chiropractor who's going to go out and serve their community. That's our job.
I was wondering, just because I've been given the privilege to interview 3 of your faculty and teachers, Dr. Brian Dooley, Dr. Jamie, who specializes in upper cervical sciences, and then Dr. Bill Deccan, one of the philosophy teachers. Can you maybe just talk on those 3 individuals and the role that they play in helping students become chiropractors?
Absolutely, I can. Thank you. So we'll start with Dr. Bill Deccan because he's one of my mentors. So I went to a school that wasn't necessarily that philosophically bound, and through God's grace, I met the right people at the right time. That's how kind of the universe works. And so I met the right people at the right time to steer me in the right direction. And so philosophically, 2 of my biggest mentors were Andy Roberts, who unfortunately passed away, and Dr. Sean Dill. And they were close friends, and I became close friends with the 2 of them as well. And because of my desire to know more about the premise, the principles, and the philosophy of chiropractic, I started to study. And Sean, who was more adept at this than I, was one of my early mentors. And through the very, once you get involved in kind of the cliques of chiropractic, I met this guy named Bill Deccan. And Bill Deccan is able to take the most complicated processes in the world and simplify them so even people like I will understand what he's talking about. So Bill is our he's chair of the philosophy department here at Sherman. He runs this thing called the ACP, the Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers, which is a program that I went through. And it's an opportunity for you to understand that you're going to learn the basis of philosophy while you're in school, and you can take it to a different level, a much higher level of understanding and dedication through the Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers. So Bill runs that, and I think he's untouchable when it comes to the clarity of the chiropractic message. So Bill's great. Jamie is she's an upper cervical person. She loves everything that's upper cervical. Because of her, we have got a cone beam CT. We're the first college campus, chiropractic campus, to have cone beam CT, which is a beautiful way, especially of analyzing the upper cervical spine in almost like a 3-dimensional model. That's great. She's also instrumental in bringing us what's called thermal imaging camera, which is a great way for us to look at the autonomic nervous system. So she's the science part of what we do. So we've got Bill Deccan doing the philosophy. We got Jamie Browning doing the science, and she's one of many. I mean, we've got other people on our campus who are also adept at science. And then we've got the clinical side, the application of all this knowledge that you learn. And now how are you going to actually do that with human beings? And that's where Brian Dooley comes in. So Brian is our dean of the clinic. And his job is to, I call him the person who's in charge of polishing our interns. So we have these people with a great amount of knowledge because they've studied like crazy. They're now going to go into this phase where they're actually going to take care of human beings. And his job is to make sure that the faculty at the health center, which by the way are superb human beings, to make sure that we hone, we polish, and we complete the process so that we can take these people who started out as students, pre-chiro first, then they were chiro students, now they become interns, and now they're going to become doctors of chiropractic. And we want to make sure that when they leave our campus, our name is on that label. And so we want to make sure they're impeccable in all the things they do. So they learn how to analyze for vertebral subluxation. They know how to characterize that. They then make decisions about how they're going to take care of that, what technique they're going to use, what level of adjustments they're going to do. And then we teach them, excuse me, to, after they've done their adjustment, to check them again. And the post check is to say, do we change the physiology of this person in the desired manner that we sought to do? So those three people are the three of many. I mean, I'm delighted that you took the three of them, but there are so many others who have equal responsibility and equal capacity to change these people from pre-chiro to chiro to intern to doctors. So we have some really great people on our campus, and I'm blessed. I sit in this office, and while my title is president, when I see the word president, what I'm thinking is head servant. How I want to outserve the best server we have on campus, because that's our job. When you have the responsibility of being a chiropractor, you have the responsibility of being a servant. So if your heart isn't set on serving, then you should probably go do something else. But if your heart is one to serve, chiropractic is one of the ways that you can do that. And I believe Sherman will prepare you in the best fashion it can, so that you can go out in your community. We can drop you out of a helicopter somewhere. You'll land, I hope, safely on the ground, and you're going to land with the intention of, how am I going to serve the people that I am privileged to serve?
Yeah, well said. That's exactly how I felt when I got out of chiropractic school. Was put me anywhere on this planet and I'm going to be able to find a way to serve these people that I'm around.
Yeah.
So if you could maybe just draw a parallel between being the head servant at your campus and being the head servant in a community, maybe just reflecting also on being a dad with a 13-year-old. Like, how do we communicate to different generations of people? How do we serve different generations of people? What are some awarenesses that you have that are really relevant to the present times that we're living in 2023? Just having an awareness of the students that you're serving, the faculty you're working with, and then the young man that's in your life.
Sure. So one of the things we have to realize is that we're living in a fairly stressful time. We're seeing things happening at this point in our lives that I've never seen before, and I've got a lot of history, so I have the ability to fall back on the good times. But this generation that's being raised now is being exposed to things that I never heard of before, never thought of before. This is a very fast pace. Before, when I wanted to acquire knowledge, I would go to the library. And, or if my parents could afford it, I would buy these books called the encyclopedia. And what I was reading there was current, but in today's standards, the encyclopedia is like outdated. So today, people have at their fingertips the ability through our electronic devices to pick up a device and find out almost anything about anything. And while that's good, it's kind of scary for me. So people are experiencing stress. I lived in California, and now I'm in South Carolina. Well, the stresses that were in California are somewhat alleviated by the lack of stresses that I have here in South Carolina, like traffic, for example. When you're in traffic and you got to get somewhere and you're getting really ticked off, that's a stressor. And what that does is it affects your body's nervous system to function properly. So there's all kinds of stressors that we experience in today's fast-paced world. And I look at my son, and I'm thinking, dude, you're 13. I have no idea what your future is going to look like, but I'm going to do the best I can to make sure that you can adapt to your future environment. So he understands how important it is to be checked, and he wants to get checked like every day, which is excessive. But I like to check him at least on a weekly basis and adjust him when necessary. And one of the fallacies that we have is that when you go to see a chiropractor, you have to be adjusted every time. But what if your body's already working fine? And that's where the pre-check, that's where this little examination, this analysis is so important, because that analysis is going to tell you as the doctor, do I need to adjust this person today or not? And if the answer is no, then don't. Because actually applying a force into the body can cause destruction as opposed to construction. So the environment that we're living in right now, Ben, is just overall, it's pretty stressful. You know, the uncertain. We just heard this weekend that some banks are closing. They had to file, bankruptcy. They're closed. That hasn't happened in years for us. So we're faced with stressors. The question is, how are we handling the stressors? First of all, are we equipped to handle them? And then secondly, can we handle them? So the parallels of, as a chiropractor in society, we're all experiencing stress. The question is, how do we handle the stress? Through chiropractic care, we're ensuring that your nerve system, at least at the minimum, is functioning optimally. And when your body functions optimally, you can better handle stresses than if your body was functioning suboptimally. Does that kind of help you a little bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And as a prospective student who's really now interested, you've piqued my interest at Sherman College. Can you maybe, without getting into any private information, just give some of the strategic planning objectives or some of the directions that the college is heading in that are really going to support students even further, new resources that are emerging, new opportunities that exist as far as externships or just different service trips that people are being able to go on, or just anything that's embedded in the culture and that's now being focused on, and finding ways to improve that upon that so that future students can really benefit?
Yeah. The first thing that people should realize as a pre-Chiro student is that we're at the cutting edge of science. You know, we've got this cone beam CT. It's in our clinic. We've got this thermal imaging. Very few campuses have that. So from the scientific point of view, we are working on the science, and we have collaborations, and we have people who support us with the science, which is awesome. From a philosophy point of view, I think that we can't be beat with what we have and who we have. You know, having Bill Decken at the helm, and everybody, if he scrutinizes you and says you can teach philosophy, then you can bet that your philosophy is going to be pretty sound. We have techniques. We have, every technique you can think of in chiropractic to address vertebral subluxation, we are teaching. Our hope is that we're going to be building a new health center. And that will be the showcase of the campus. We hope to build a beautiful new health center, and that will be to serve the community better and to allow our students to understand what it's like to work in a really first-class health center. So my hope before I pass is that we will have built a brand new health center. We'll refurbish the current health center into something which is more functional for us. We need more office space. We want to build enrollment. So we have to bring more people in, but we want to do so intelligent. We don't want to bring in more people for the sake of bringing more people in. We want to bring in more people for the sake of let's serve our communities better. And so we're going to intelligently roll that out to make sure we have a great faculty. Right now, we have the opportunity to have a very low student to faculty ratio. And in so doing, our students know our faculty, and the faculty know the students. It's rare that you'll meet a faculty member who does not know the name of every student that has come through their class. So because of the small numbers, the more intimate numbers, we're able to have those relationships. We bring people onto campus. I mean, some world-class people. For example, we have our annual Lyceum coming up on May 4th, 5th, and 6th this year here in Spartanburg at our campus. And we're going to bring in some of the finest speakers to talk about the science, the art, the philosophy, the business, some of the regulatory issues that face us. We just don't get to become chiropractors and do whatever we want. There's regulations. And so we're bringing to us some of the people who know the ins and outs of regulation. I never went to chiropractic college. 25 years ago, I graduated from chiropractic college, and I never, for the life of me, thought, one day I'll be a president of a chiropractic college, or I'll be involved in chiropractic college. I just never even thought about that. But the truth is that we have this beloved profession that is under attack sometimes, even from within. We espouse and we protect this thing called the vertebral subluxation, because we know that is the foundation of our profession. There's some people in chiropractic who don't even believe that. And so we're being attacked from within and from without. And that's okay, because, it just builds our strength. It brings our resolution, and we know who we are, what we're going to do. But I believe that long term, what you'll see from Sherman is you'll see an intelligent, slow growth. You'll see an expansion of our resources and our facilities. You're going to see us having more and more publications. We have one of the smartest human beings on the planet in chiropractic as part of our faculty. That's Dr. Christopher Kent. And so he's responsible for our scholarly activity, which means that he's constantly looking outside for how do we expand the science, the philosophy, and the art of chiropractic intelligently so that we can communicate it to not only the public, but maybe these pre-chiro students and make it even more attractive for them to want to come to an institution like Sherman. We're not the only chiropractic college here. We all have our own personalities and our own missions. I happen to believe that Sherman has the most pure mission because we will not deviate from anything which takes us out of the vertebral subluxation centered practice.
And thank you for bringing up Christopher Kent. I've also interviewed him, and wow, what a mind. Can you touch on the Sherman Roar program? I also interviewed a Roar representative, and I was just wondering if, from your point of view, how the Roar program fits into the pre-chiro experience, when they should go to a Roar program offering, and just, yeah, who the Roar doctors are.
Sure. So one of the things we have is ROAR stands for Reach Out and Recruit. And it's a program that we have for doctors who are enthusiastic about the Sherman College and what we stand for. And they actually will hold in their offices meetings in which they host pre-chiro students. They may choose to bring in a chiropractor to talk about something which might be of interest. So it's doctors who have committed themselves, their time, their energy to be in an area where we can send potential students, prospective students. Now, I'll tell you, I've been interviewing prospective students over the course of the last 3.5 months, and it's probably one of the most fun things that I do in my job, because I get to talk to these people and I tell them different stories about my experiences with chiropractic, and you get to watch their eyes get really big. And you see the light bulbs go off and they say, yes, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, which is awesome. So ROAR is one of the ways that we can bring in prospective students and inform pre-chiro students as to what the profession truly is. We're not going to lie to anybody. I mean, is chiropractic a utopia? If things were working well, sure it would be. But like any profession, it has its ups and its downs. We tend to have more ups than we do downs. Otherwise, we'd be depressed as all get go. But our job is to the degree that we can reach out and touch someone's heart and get them convicted to say, yes, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then we'll bring them into the program. And I'm telling you, we will hold their hands through the entire program. If you look at our website, it talks about the different things that we do. We have career counselors. So if someone's struggling, we identify that early and we assign a career counselor to them. In fact, I met with one today, and their job is to help and empower these people who may struggle to go ahead and complete the program if that's their destiny, and then soar. Just go ahead and take the information and go do something great with it. So we have this ROAR. People say, well, how can I support Sherman? Well, become a ROAR doctor. Become one of those doctors in your community who is willing to open your office up, to have lectures, to have discussions, to have pre-chiropractic students come in, or maybe to have them come shadow you. One of the things that pre-chiro students are interested in is, what does it look like to be in a chiropractic office? So these doctors open their offices up and they allow students to come in and observe what they do. Not only what they do, but how they do it and how they talk. So ROAR is one way to do it. You could become a regent. We love people to become regents. Regents are people who are financially support Sherman College because see the value of what we do. You become a president's circle, which is like a regent on hormones. So you can become that. Whatever fashion, whatever talents you have. So you can offer us your talents, your time, or your treasures. And whatever you have, we will utilize to the best of our ability to convert someone who's thinking about chiropractic as a profession to someone who becomes a chiropractor, and making sure they leave our campus confident and competent and an understanding that what we're going to do is improve the human experience.